This is going to be exciting. This material is so cool. It's coming out, and I thought you guys would love it. And it applies to us. We've been talking a lot about internationally, and it's important that you know internationally because it's not internationally. It's like what's happening in NCAA, what's happening in FIVB, what's happening wherever. It applies to all of us. Okay? It has nothing to do with FIVB. It has to do with other organizations and what they're discovering through their technology. And what's happening in FIVB is we're discovering through, I'm discovering firsthand in the game that I had in Japan when I called 4 hits, and my boss had said, our supervisor, we have supervisors just like all of us here, but right before the tournament started, they said, we have gone through all the videos, and just so you know, do not call 4 hits. If the ball hits the top of the tape, it will be a touch. You must trust us. If you're not sure and you look and you think, oh, I'm not sure, so you go 4 hits, no, don't do that. So, of course, out of the U.S., a lot of us go 4 hits. So, boom, ball hit. Oh, that is absolutely 4 hits. This is in the World Championship qualification tournament in Japan. This is a big event if you qualify for the Olympic Games. So I went beep, ball over here, 4 hits. Rogerio, my friend from Brazil, goes, Pati, what are you doing on the headset? And I was like, so then challenge right away. And I'm sitting there, and I'm trying not to look at the big screen, but I'm like this. And touch. Ball goes, of course, the other way. And then he goes, Pati, like that. And I went, oh. Then about 2 sets later, 4 hits. I don't know what happened. My whistle went off again. Of course, then he says even more, really, Pati, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. I actually said, I don't know what's wrong with me. And then, of course, it goes up on the mega screen, and it's touch. I've never called a 4 hit since. So, we'll show you why. No, I haven't called a 4 hit since. Unless at like the bottom of the net is my rule.
So I think I know everybody here. My name is Suzanne Lowry. I'm thrilled to be here with everybody. Got some friendly faces in the back waving at me. So Patty called me a few weeks ago and said, hey, would you like to be a part of our team that's leading national advancement clinics this year? I said, heck yeah, that sounds awesome. And then inside I was like, oh, shit. This is exciting, though. And so I wanted to come and share. And then I got the material. And where's this I'm just going to cheat and come up here. I got the material. Oh, the battery's low. Might want to plug in the PC. Patty, you got a battery? Okay. So, and then I saw the material and I said, physics? Are you kidding me? Like, I didn't sign up for that. I mean, I'm okay with like volleyball rules and that sort of thing, but physics lessons. So this is not Physics 101. This is Physics 90. This is what you take in summer school before you get to school your freshman year when you need a little refresher. So if you have any questions or if you really want to push, Ed, who I'm working with tomorrow, has agreed to help tutor anybody on their physics lessons if they need extra study time. So what we want to talk about here is sort of basic cause and effect. And so we're going to talk about the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. And so basically it's pretty simple. The angle of incidence should be equal to the angle of reflection if there's nothing else there to impact the reflection of the ball. So if a ball comes in and hits a horizontal plane at 30 degrees, then it should reflect out at how many degrees? Excellent, you guys got it. That's wonderful. Any childhood instances or games that this might remind you of? What was that? Hockey, that's a great one. Seesaw, yep. How about Pong? Billiards, that's a great one. Who played Pong? I actually Googled the gaming console that we had when I was a kid. Who had an Odyssey 2000? Yes. And so you could play tennis, and the little bar was about 2 inches long, and you'd switch it to racquetball, and it was 1.5 inches, and you'd switch it to squash, and it was 1 inch, and it was literally like boop, boop, boop. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about if the ball comes in at 30 degrees, it should exit at 30 degrees. Now, if the angle of incidence is not equal to the angle of reflection, what do we think might have caused that? Maybe a blocker? Right? Now, granted, this is very simplistic in what we want to talk about from a volleyball standpoint. So maybe a blocker arm, maybe a blocker through the net. We have to watch and sort of judge exactly what's going on. Sometimes the net itself, it looks very straight and strong when it's standing there, but when a player touches it, when a ball touches it, it's flexible, it moves. We know that that can change some as well. But this opening section of the course today is all about how can we take the clues from our matches and sort of help them make us get to the right decision. So we've got some great video from the FIVB, and Patty's going to take us through all of these. Want me to drive?
Yeah, can you drive? Okay, these videos are, Sandy Steele sent us these videos. Sandy was kind enough to forward us all the 4hits training material they used for us. And so if you want to play the first thing. Okay, can we play again? What do you need, Suzanne? It's plugged in. Yep.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Watch it again. My bad.
Oh, that's okay. It's awesome. Let's watch it. Let's go. Yeah, go back. Let's watch it again. Oh, that one. Now let's hang on just a second. Who felt that was a touch? And this is where and who felt it maybe wasn't a touch? Okay. Yep. Good. And I really want you guys to feel super good about just saying what you think. I know we did it earlier in your earlier sessions, but it's super important. Right now we have Paulo's from Brazil and Nassar's from ball touch. Yep. Interesting, huh? No, and it's affecting us all. It's just really amazing when you're in the challenge booth or when we're watching in our NCAA games. All right. So that's a pretty big touch. All right, next one. U.S.-Poland game. Okay, now I want you to think about something right now because Devaney brought it up when I was working with her when she was on challenge and I was watching. She said we got to see the ending play, which is important. So as we see them attack, let's make sure that we're watching as officials until the play is finished. Okay, so we watch. Looks like 4 hits. Ball does what? Hits the floor, hits the player, but then directly to the floor. You guys remember that? Because that's important. I didn't think that was important. I thought 4 hits, I'm done. My brain stops, I have 4 hits. But now it's become important because now with the challenge system, you want to be able to know what would have happened if after you made your call and you shouldn't have, blah, blah, blah. So let's go to the next one. This is Hernan from Argentina. That's a big touch. Yep, off of his forearm, right. So now, what are we going to do? And this happened at the World Championships where they did the replay. And then a lot of controversy hit because, when the whistle blows in FIVB, it's a replay. But now our bosses have decided that we had a ball. At one of our events, we had a ball, and they used it for training for us in our event. Ball was hit the antenna, went directly out of bounds, maybe 4 feet out of bounds. The player was not going to play it. They did antenna fault, and then did the review, no antenna fault by the attacker, so they did a replay, but the ball was out. So then we've now in FIB decided that we have to watch the end of the play, and now the ball will be out. So that's good because the Italian team went crazy because there was a replay. Okay, next. Now that looked like, who felt that looked like more of a 4 hits call? I felt it looked a little bit more. Okay, let's go again. That's Hernan and Juhi from Korea. Yeah, poor Hernan got into quite a few videos here. And look, she's not very big though. You see the blocker? She's like a typical college player, maybe a mid. She's not very high above the net. And definitely, what do you see? Touch. Yep, definitely a touch.
She's hardly even penetrating into his horns.
Yeah. So, what does that all mean? And I think that's what's important. What does it mean? So our statistics are coming in that 80 to 90% of the balls that hit the top of the tape are going to be touched, even if they have the lower top of the tape. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like the ball hits, like here's the thing, it's like this. It hits like this, and this piece is touching, ends up touching. That was really a bad little thing, but did you get what I was saying? If this is the top of the net and this is the ball. Okay, so 80 to 90%, it's based on statistical review that we're calling for hits on, and then it's actually a touch. The element of getting, I'm so sorry, you can back up just one? I'm sorry. The element of getting the best position to see the attacker and the blocker, and we're going to see some video next time with Suzanne where the first referee is actually leaning and looking on the blocking side when you already have an R2 that's on the blocking side, so getting on the attacking side. And then the movement of the ball net as it's pressing forward in the players. Okay, next. So statistically speaking, I think that to me is super duper important. I always want to know if I'm not sure what to do, which is what I'm trying to say totally normal. You see something, you're like, boy, I'm not sure. It's a 50-50 call. Then in the scenario that we're talking about here, what is this telling you? Don't do anything. And I love that idea. It is a little bit like the Pooh movie that I just watched on my way back from overseas. It's the best just to sit there and do nothing, because play will continue then, and the teams will continue to play, and if there's been an error made, we can correct it later at the end. Does that make sense? FIBB, we can do it in the middle, but with us. So always defer to let play continue, because the odds of you being correct, statistically speaking, are 80%. You can't ever go wrong with that number. Okay? Suzanne, you got to tell me when you jump in, because I have no memory. Okay, you're going to tell me, though. So there's been a lot of talk. When I talk a lot about like doubles, 4 hits, when I'm chatting with people or I'm working in the Badger region or talking with people, they're like, well, that's at the international level. Totally. Rachel was like a rock star when she put this material together, and we're going to show you the results of our clients that we're working with and how that's working with the blockers. You think, okay, internationally it's happening because the girls are penetrating over. But I'm not going to talk anymore. I want you guys to see the video. So this is a little high school team. Okay, so that's 4 hits for sure. And ball lands where? Out. Okay, so we need to know that. We need to remember that. Yeah, look at that, huh? Now, you have to trust the fact that it's in between the arms. In FIVB, we do split screen. So we show this, clearly shows it's going over, and then we come from behind to show that it was in between the arms. Because sometimes the ball is in between the 2 blockers and it's not hitting anybody, but it's going over. Like from this angle, you see it's over, but it's actually in between the 2 blockers and isn't touching anybody. So at FIVB, they actually have a split screen it so that we can prove that not only did it clearly go over and it looks like it's hitting an arm, but it's not, the blockers are together and it's hitting those blockers. All right? Okay, so then what do we do now, though? So she whistles 4 hits. Ball went directly out of bounds. And there was a touch. So where does it go? Yep. Goes to the right. Goes to the right of the first referee. So try to finish the play. And it's not easy to do. And I'm telling you that because it's already happened to me. It happened to me. We had a challenge. We had the MAC championships, and Joe and I had a MAC champ. I won't tell you about it, but it was entertaining. It was the result of us not really seeing the end of the play, but our line judge did, and we actually brought our line judge in and asked what happened at the end. But super important now to be able to watch the end of that play. Ready? Yep, see the touch there and the little fingers. So what I want to encourage you to think about is even those babies that are just getting their fingers over, you know, if you think the forearm, we're seeing those touches on the big kids, it's hitting this part. Because statistically speaking, I knew this as a coach. The players are reaching so high, and they're actually, I don't know if you watch the coaches tonight, they always say reach over. Because it really is only traveling about that high. If this is the top of the net, it's only traveling about that high above the top of the net on most attackers at all levels. Okay? Most attackers, all levels. So when the babies are getting this much of their hands over, it's hitting the hands. Or in the big girls, it's hitting their armpits. But it's hitting something. So know that age has no bearing on it. The only one it will be in the next one that we'll see. Actually, not the next one. I apologize. Yeah, the next one. Okay, so what's that one? Yeah. Don't call doubles. No, I'm joking. So let's go slow-mo. And this is where if you have your, it's a little tricky because they're different. All of us are different. We're like athletes. What we tell one athlete, we won't necessarily tell another athlete. But the element of your vision, I'm not going to tell you to narrow in or wide out because, for example, I have my vision very wide. I don't really look at the net. I'm not focusing in on this, maybe the net or the blocker. I look at the net differently. And you look at the net differently too. We all look at things differently. So I think like when we're attacking, if you guys played volleyball, you know when you're hitting a ball, each of us sees the ball differently, sees the block differently. So all of you are going to be a little bit different. So I want to be very careful about what I say, but you can definitely see that the blocker is what? A foot off the net. So that's helpful to you. So when you're looking along the net, you're seeing she's a foot off the net. That is helpful to let you know that the 90% now has dropped to 20%. Or I would argue 0. I mean, that would have to be super duper weird if that thing slingshotted over. Okay? This one is, okay, wait a minute. This one is so cool. This happened at the World Championships. Oh my God, we had like an hour-long lecture on this. And they said this is more likely to happen to the men than you guys here, which I always like to go, okay? But I thought, okay, I bought into it. I thought, okay, the men are up there longer. They hang longer so they can hang onto the ball longer. And what they found was at the World Championship, did you guys remember the controversy at the Men's World Championship with Yuri from Dominica and the replay and the men? So that hit all the World Wide Web besides my ponytail one where the ponytail went up and we totally screwed that up. But that's another story. Next year. We'll talk about that next year. But here we're discovering when the attacker, well, we want you to see the video first. But know this, stuff came out of this video for us. Okay, let's play it again. And that's Goran, who's down. And look what Goran does. He moves to the post. I love all their faces. So Goran, just so you know, internationally speaking, you really do make a... So if this is the post, he's here and he's watching the blockers, but he does what all smart R2 do when, and FIVB when they're not sure. They go like this. And they stay like right in the... They don't commit. They're like, I'm not 100% sure. They should, but they can't because they don't know. So if you commit, then you're saying this is the deal. So he's trying to say you decide, okay? Because normally you go like this, you'd step out. You go, okay. Ball goes over there. Just so you know. And I've done that before, by the way. So I'm just trying to not back him up, but just tell him what he's thinking. He's not 100% sure. What about the R2? Well, the R2 just told you their story by their body movement. So let's watch now. Isn't that great? This happened 3 times. We only showed you one of the videos just because there's not enough time. So, fascinating. And it went into the antenna, so the challenge reviz has got to lead directly to something. Happened 3 times, and they gave it to the blockers every time. And all 3 times it should have been off the attacker. We are actually trying to figure out, they're actually trying to figure out, the supervisors and the group that does their rules are trying to figure out a specific rule for this that they're thinking about. And I don't know what it's going to be. It's fascinating. They're talking about this particular play and that they're not going to have it be this way anymore and have a completely different way to think about it. Now, I don't know what that means because they don't share that with me. So, but I will tell you this. In the women's event, I was just at the club championships, I was on challenge review when it happened. So the girls went up, threw it out off the block, and I thought, no challenge at all, which is awesome. So that I can challenge it myself. So I'm like, okay, I got to look at that. So they pull it up. Totally, she took the ball, threw it out of bounds, and she threw it out. And so I clipped it and held it so that we can see it. But the women are doing the same thing. The women, even though they don't jump as high, they're still taking it off the block, and they're the last one to touch it before it goes on. We're calling a touch off the blockers. So that's just a FYI. Really neat stuff. Okay, one more minute. Oh, we have that question? Oh, okay, it's not in our stuff, is it? Okay, good. That's a great question. So the issue, no, it's a directive that just came out a month ago. I'm so glad you brought it up because I wouldn't have thought of it. A directive just came out to our group after this men's world championship because the men were literally catching it, throwing it in, throwing it out, and our boss went crazy. He just said we cannot have that because it's leading us to make mistakes as officials, and we're looking dumb when they're throwing it. So our directive a month ago came out that you will call that. You will not allow them to go in and go out anymore. So you're going to be seeing more lifts being called, and we definitely saw more lifts being called in the women's club championships. I saw more lifts by our people calling it, players that were grabbing on the ball, throwing it in the block, and throwing it on the bounce. They're not allowing that. That just started now, so you'll see that being new in FIVB. So yes, we are told now that has to be called a lift. Okay.